Hello! Today we're going to look at an infrequently discussed feature in AMOS. This feature allows you to go way beyond what AMOS was designed to do, the only cost being the extra knowledge and skills you need. In this video we're going to look at using and calling assembly language code from within AMOS, why you'd want to do this and how it's achieved. So join me as we dodge a few gurus and learn how to optimise your code. To be fair, we're actually going to look at the impact of using compiled or assembled code, rather than specifically assembly language, but we will take a brief look at that as well. But first, let's take a look at what the AMOS Professional Manual has to say about this. Way down in chapter 14 in the manual, there's a section called machine code, and this starts off with the usual commands like peek and poke, as well as the various bit manipulation functions. But if you go past that, there's an interesting section about creating a machine code language procedure. The idea is straightforward. You create your assembly language program in a specific way, then using a special option in the menu insert it into a procedure, which AMOS then locks so you can't unfold it. The other way you can do this, and to be honest, probably more flexible as you can keep compiling or assembling it without having to go through the insert program procedure, is to simply load it from disk using the pload command. Then you can use a special call command to start this machine code program. Now, it's a little more complex than that, and this isn't for embedding whole programs, this is more for embedding tiny little subroutines for use directly within AMOS, and they have to be written in a specific way, with the parameters passed and the results returned in a strict manner. But why would you want to do this? Well, there's quite a few reasons, and the main one is speed. Even with the AMOS compiler, there's still some speed to be had by converting some routines into assembly language. Now, I'm not an expert with assembly language, but I'll muddle through and show you a few speed comparisons. This is a simple AMOS program that adds up the values of two variables multiplied together. I've deliberately chosen this because loops are one of the things that can get very slow. Now below this is the code to run the assembly language version of this. The assembly language version looks like this. For those that don't understand assembly language, you'll have to take my word for it that it's doing the same thing. Now this code also has an advantage too. The AMOS version is working with 32-bit long words for everything, whereas this, where it can, is working with 16-bit words. Now, to make this as fair as possible, I'm going to compile the AMOS program so we can get it to run as fast as AMOS can make it run. And then, once complete, we'll run it. And it's still running. Still running. There we go. The AMOS version took 308 ticks, that's 6.16 seconds. But look at the assembly version, a tiny 50 ticks, that's 1 second. Incredible, just over 6 times faster. And this is all running on a stock Amiga 500 Plus with a little bit of fast RAM. So a simple maths loop runs a lot faster. Not really a surprise. With assembly language you have full control and can make a lot of shortcuts and optimizations for a specific task that AMOS can't. Let's try something a little bit more complex, generating a Mandelbrot image. And these are very maths intensive, but not just that, we also need to draw to the screen as well. First, this is the AMOS version, and you can see surprisingly there isn't actually that much code, but there is a while loop in the middle that really clobbers the speed. Now, using AMOS, you have the advantage that you can simply call plot to draw the pixel to the screen. In assembly language, we won't have that luxury. This is the majority of the assembly language conversion, and it could probably be optimised a lot more than this. One thing you may notice is just how much code is needed compared to the AMOS version. I'm not going to explain how this operates, that's not what this video is really about, but I will point out this section here. This plots the pixel to the screen by writing to each of the 4 bit planes individually. A potential optimisation that could be done here would be to do 8 columns at a time, meaning you could just write 1 byte. But again, that's not really the point right now. So I'm going to compile up the AMOS version and then we'll run these side by side so you can see the speed difference. And I'll speed this up as it does take a while. So the assembly language version finished in 1 minute 28 seconds. And the AMOS version is still running. And it's still running. And it finally finishes over 3 minutes later, totaling 4 minutes 35 seconds. The assembly language version is approximately 3 times faster, and I know it could be optimised to be a lot faster than that. Yes, quite a difference. Being able to do this is obviously quite useful. When I made my video about the various sound samplers, I discovered that the Megalo sound sampler actually was written using AMOS, but contained a lot of machine code routines loaded separately. I suspect they were for fast processing of some of the effects, as well as low-level actual sampling from the device. So how does this actually work? Well, let's take a closer look. Address registers A0 to A2 are directly loaded from the AMOS areg array, no problem there. A3 is set to an optional parameter list which is used by the call command if you add parameters to the end of it, or if you decide to embed your program inside a procedure. I actually gave up trying to get that to work after several failed Guru attempts. Now, A4 to A6 should be treated as read-only, with A5 pointing to AMOS's special data zone. We don't want to touch any of those. Finally, A7 is the stack, and you can do what you want with this register as long as you restore it before exiting your application. I found, as you might have noticed, the most reliable and easiest way was to use the pload command to load the binary file directly into an AMOS memory bank. At this point, if you wanted, you could actually just save that back out again as a normal bank and load it in the future. The reason I like this the most is if you want to change that program, you can just reassemble it and AMOS will load it next time the program runs. It makes for a very quick workflow, especially if you're using modern tools and writing assembly language, for example in something like Visual Studio Code. Now, regarding the actual program, well, it needs to be relocatable. That means, for example, you can't have any jumps to hard-coded memory addresses. This isn't usually an issue, as it's something the assembler will take care of for you. To assemble these programs, I've been using the following two commands. The first takes the assembly language program, assembles it into machine code, and outputs an object file. The -f_hunc parameter makes Vasm produce an object file in an Amiga hunc format. We don't really need to worry about what that means. The -pic parameter is the important one. This makes the code position independent, meaning it can be loaded or relocated anywhere in memory. Finally, the -b Amiga hunc parameter causes the linker to produce an Amiga executable rather than one of the other formats it supports. What's nice about these tools is you can even get versions of them for modern operating systems, meaning I can actually code these in Visual Studio Code and then assemble them right there. It's very handy. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is walk through an example, firstly in AMOS, and then how that program works when it's converted to assembly language. Finally, we'll compare the speed difference. But first, I just want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters, and I'm really thankful for your support. If you'd like to support me in making future videos, then please follow the links in the video description. So, this is the program. It's quite simple. It creates a two-colour screen, i.e. one bit plane, and then creates 4 arrays. These 4 arrays represent a position on screen and a direction in the X and Y axis. Next, we have a little loop to randomise these values across the screen. Our main loop is interesting. Now, we could have used a double buffered screen and then clear the screen at the start of the loop. However, I've decided that I want it to be that each time the loop runs, the code starts off with removing the dot from the screen. Then it moves it in the correct direction. If now that happens to have gone off the edge of a screen, we reverse this direction and pull it back on. Finally, we draw the pixel in its new position. Compiling this up, we can see that it very slowly moves these 250 dots around the screen, bouncing off the edges. Now, to give this a competitive advantage, I'm going to switch to using the fplot command from the Turbo Plus extension, and after compiling that you can see it's running a little bit faster, but still nothing to get too excited about. Now, onto the assembly language version, which still initialises all of the arrays in the same way. Now, to call the assembly language program, we create an array which we'll use to hold the address of each of the arrays before. These are actually pointers. The final entry is the address of the physical screen because the assembly language program will need to draw to it. Next, we load the program. The bank temporary command is actually an AMCAF extension that stops the bank being saved when I save the program. Finally, the loop this time sets up the address register 0 to be the location of the array above, and then data register 7 to contain the number of dots. Then finally it runs call 4, which means run the program we loaded into bank 4. Now let's have a look at that assembly language program, and yes, there's going to be a lot more code than the AMOS version. And we're still letting AMOS actually do all the setup. First, we have some constants about the size of the screen. These aren't actually technically constants, as they'll be stored as literal values, meaning they don't need to be looked up. As there's a limited number of address registers available, the code sets accessing the DX and DY arrays by putting their pointers on the stack. The 68000 processor actually makes it easy to access these by allowing you to reference them offset to another register. It then also sets up address registers 1, 2 and 3 to be the pixel arrays and the physical screen location. Note that it's actually okay to trash A3. This code then converts the pixel count into an actual byte offset, as each entry in those arrays are 4 bytes long. So shift left 2 is used here, which is a fast way of doing multiply by 4. D7 would be the last index in the array. Now onto the main loop. It reads the pixel positions into registers D4 and D5. Then it removes that pixel from the screen by calculating the byte that would hold that pixel in memory. As we're only dealing with a single bit plane, this is actually quite easy. As the screen is 320 pixels wide, 320 divided by 8 is 40, so the screen is actually 40 bytes wide. So first, the Y offset is calculated by taking the Y value and multiplying it by 40. Next we need the X offset. Well, we'll take the X value and divide it by 8. And combining the two, we now have the byte in memory where that pixel is held. Now if we also take the X value and do a bitwise AND with the number 7, we get which bit in that byte needs manipulating. After that we can simply clear that bit at that memory location. The X and Y movement directions are more or less the same, so we're just going to focus on the X direction. Remember that D4 and D5 hold the X and Y position. This first line copies the address of the direction array into A0 from the stack. It then extracts the direction value from that memory location, offset by D7, which is the current index in the array we're looking at. Next, it adds that direction to the X position. Easy so far. Now the TST or test instruction does quite a lot. The CPU has a set of flags that can be set as a result of an operation, and test sets quite a few. It sets the N if the number is negative, assuming it's signed. It sets the Z value if the number is 0. It clears the V flag, which is set if there's an overflow. It clears the C flag, which is set if the calculation causes a bit that needs carrying, and it completely ignores the X or extended flag. In this case, it's test.L, which means do it on a 32-bit number, as opposed to .W, which means 16-bit, and .B, which means for 8-bit. Next, the result of this is used with the BPL or branch on plus command, which jumps if the N register is not set, i.e. the number is 0 or more. If it was negative, then the code sets the X position to 0 and flips the X direction. If it wasn't negative, it checks if we've reached the edge of the screen, and if we have, it moves the dot to just left of that and then flips the X direction again. Finally, it stores the new position and direction back in memory. Skipping the Y, now we need to draw the new pixel to the screen, and it works much like before, except this time it uses the bset command to set the pixel instead of clearing it. After this, the dot position number is decreased to the previous one in the list, and then this just keeps looping until that number goes negative. So they're almost identical. The AMOS code processes the dots by starting at the first index, and then works forward. The assembly language version starts at the end and works backwards. It shouldn't really make any difference, so let's run them and see what the speed difference is like. So after the code gets through the initial AMOS setup, wow, yes, that's so much faster. I'll make it easier to see, I'll put the two side by side, and wow, you can really tell the difference. It's a really interesting feature. I remember reading about it back in the day when I first got AMOS. I knew what this could do, I knew how it could help, but the complexity required to do this at the time was way beyond my abilities, which kinda makes it a little bit ironic. The best use of this feature would be to keep the majority of the nice things within AMOS, you know, the stuff that AMOS makes really easy, like drawing graphics. Then, you'd rewrite or move some of the more complex processor-intensive loops to assembly language, giving them a speed boost where needed. AMOS already has such a diverse language, especially with all its extensions, that most of the time you'd probably never need to do this, but in extreme situations it could be really handy. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.